Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Rugby Analysis Deep Dive. In this series, I speak to coaches, analysts and players, and we dive deep into specific areas of the game. In this episode, I speak to Apollo Perelini, and we're going to have a look at blocker plays and how they apply from Rugby League to Rugby Union. Apollo, thank you very much for joining us for this next episode of the Rugby Analysis Deep Dive. Really excited for your topic area. I think it's one that particularly myself, and I'm sure lots of other coaches are really interested by. I'm sure we're going to learn loads from it. So if you just quickly introduce yourself and give us a little bit of insight as to some of your background.
Yeah, Apollo Perelini, played in New Zealand, played Rugby Union most of my life. Played in Auckland, then represented North Harbour, played for Samoa Rugby Union in one of the World Cups, and then moved to Rugby League in '94, signed with Scott Gibbs, great Welsh centre, and we both signed at the same time for St Helens Rugby League. I played there till 2000, and then went back to Rugby Union as a player for Sale Sharks. After 3 years, I decided I just had enough. My body had taken a toll. Then retired and went into coaching. Went back to St Helens. So I stayed in coaching in Sale for 6-7 months, and then moved to St Helens, coaching there. Coached there till 2009, and then moved here to Dubai. Became a PE teacher, director of sports in Dubai. And in 2016, I was asked to head up the UAE Rugby Federation as the high performance director, basically just looking after the development of the game and spreading the game within the expats here, but more importantly, the development of the game with Indigenous Arabs here in this region. So working alongside with Asia Rugby to develop the game. Yeah, so that's where I am here, and so it's been a great journey. It's a lot warmer here than it is in New Zealand, but I'm pretty much a British. I was there for a long time, so I gravitate towards the UK more than I do New Zealand.
Yeah, cool. Well, you've had a distinguished career, and I think one of the things that really stood out. There's loads of reasons we could chat, and I think we could chat for hours on end. But one of the things that really stood out was you've got quite a rare link between Union and League, having both coached and played in both codes. I think that's a really important link that you can offer. This is going to be a real learning experience for me too. So I'm very much looking forward to this. So let's get into it.
I'm here basically just to help some of the lessons that Rugby Union may have taken from Rugby League over the years. And I know that in between 2006 and 2008, we had England Rugby Union with Brian Ashton and Mike Ford and the coaching staff of England at the time, prior to the World Cup, come and spend a couple of days at the St Helens Rugby League headquarters, just to see what we do and how we do it. From at the time, St Helens was top defensive team and top point scorers in Super League. So, and also we had Claremont under Vern Cotter, and Joe Schmidt also came to visit, and Eddie Jones. So everybody's been down to St Helens to check out what do we eat or drink down there that helped us become a really good defensive and attacking team. Yeah, so we'll have a look at this. This is Rabbitohs versus the Melbourne Storm. What you see is that one of the key roles of lead runners is the speed in which they run into those holes. They run back into the line, so they're actually running in, as opposed to running straight or running out. They actually run in just to force the outside player to connect in on him, so to bite in. And also, if you see on this, the ball player actually double pumps. He has time to double pump. So when he double pumps, he actually shows the ball once, and then he pulls it back to the trail runner. And what that does, it looks at that the lead runner is going to receive it. So then the outside defender has to bite in. And so the key there is lead runner, and also the ball player. He's quite direct.
just that double pump comes, I think it's something that we talked about in episode 1 a little bit about the timing of the crossover. So the receiver in behind is being shielded by the short runner. It's interesting you pick up on the angle as well. That links together with double pumps. It's a whole picture.
It's also important for the trailman. So here we're going to the right again. Now, if you see here, you've got there's a player there that just running in. So he's what we call our edge runners. So edge of the ruck, and he just runs in. It just holds up A and B. It's an option. So the first receiver gets it, then onto the second receiver, who then double pumps, and then he puts the ball over. Then he was able to see where the options are. But the lead runner is so important, and there he just runs back, and you notice the angle is really tight, but also he comes from wide. And we always say, look, start wide, and then just run in on that angle and really try and hug in tight and really then connect with that defender. So what happens, those defenders, those three Storm defenders have had to sit because of this lead runner. The lead runner is the key to this play. And so you got two lead runners. If you look, you got two lead runners now coming through. And then rather than hitting the trail man, he was able to see that the outside winger had come in and he could hit the outside winger.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting looking at where the focus is. So they're talking about the width of those two short runners. Their width, if you think about all the defenders currently, their eyes are looking inwards. So the width of the other guys then draws them really late. And as you said, they can't be ignored. You can't just take them away. We see this loads in league, probably more than Union, at this point, the miss pass becomes a bit of an option. Just think of any, what are the contributors in the game, Apollo, for this miss pass being such a regular feature on the outside?
It's what we call the first tackle. Now, he's not going to be hanging back for the kick. So he's always going to know. So the indicators that the winger is going to bite in because it's the first tackle. So Rugby League, you have 6 tackles, and more often than not, the kicks probably will come around about either between the 3rd or the 5th. Never on the first. So therefore, the winger will make a choice, make a daring decision by trying to come in, and that's where that option on the outside is always on. Mm-hmm. And it's a gamble. A lot of the times it is a gamble on that winger coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Probably in Union, we'd have the problem of the number of tackles. You'd probably have a covering defender in that space, so maybe that has an impact on on shutting off. So a slightly different context.
Try and tell the opposition where they're running. Mm-hmm. And as a defender, if the attacker's telling you where they're going to be running to, you got to be attracted to it. And so if you see this lead runner, he's actually telling them, I'm going to run into this hole. Mm-hmm. And we never call him a dummy. He's an option runner. Everybody's an option. And the great thing about this is that if you see the trail man, he actually starts about 5 or 6 meters inside the ball player. So he's come a long way from. Normally his starting point is normally behind the first receiver, and he'll start jogging across there. And I'll show you in the later clips that the fullback, which is the number 1, normally starts from the first receiver, and he just tricks all the way through. No one actually sees him coming across until last minute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really nicely timed lead on the outside. My attention's drawn here to the lead runner, to the short runner, where his eyes are right now. The fact that his eyes are fixated on the ball makes him a far more believable option. So he's signalling with his arm, which could easily be a catchable situation as well. His eyes are trying to fix inside right to the last moment. That's when his eyes probably slightly turn away. So it's probably not interested in the 7 as much because his eyes are fixed inside, but 4 can't ignore him right now. 4's maybe thinking about, do I need to step in? And just his little shift, the body weight, to go slightly inside and then have to react late means he's already lateral. So it's such a small movement. You want to go to offsettle him for a second and you just got the extra bit of space to play into.
Yeah, and he throws that missed pass. But if you think about where that number 1 starts from, So as a defensive team, so if you see the last 4 defenders on the green there, they've accounted for their four attackers. So a lot of the times when defenders, they're marking up on, most defenders will mark up on man for man. In rugby league, we try not to mark man for man. They mark space. It's more of a channel. We share the same channel. We share the inside or outside channel. On this one here, stop there. So here he showed it on the inside there. So that just held the defence. But also what it tells the wider defenders, I can't fly up because he might just thread a ball behind us. So the first receiver looked shaped to kick, but then he passes. Now the number one, who's now wrapped from all the way from the other side, wasn't accounted for, but now he creates the overlap.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the wide shot initially, I was thinking like that's pretty Union. That's we're seeing more and more of these shapes, these kind of stack type setups in the backfield. Then inside holder, but the inside runner of 10 is pretty important there. Holding the inside defence. Otherwise, you can fly pretty easily on the first receiver without anybody else in the picture. So quite important that he's there. As you say, I really like this slide on the back. And because he's new to the picture, I think you picked up on that. He's the third in the stack line right now.
Yeah.
Probably he's actually hard to pick up where he's going maybe, and then becomes the central part of the play. So I can definitely see some real good crossover with what could be achieved in Union from that setup. Is a lot of crossover there, I think.
Yeah, because in what I didn't put in there was that a couple of plays before that, he came on the inside of that ball player. Mm-hmm. So he got a ball back on the inside, and but this time he changed his role and went on the outside. Mm-hmm. So there's
I mean that's something we picked up the last few days actually. The deception isn't always in that individual play. Deception can be built up over an entire match where you can sell a picture. You can maybe seem predictable, and then you do things like this, which they didn't anticipate. So it's pretty cool.
In rugby league, on the edges, what you got your edge runners, your edge leads, and they get it. They get the ball, or sometimes they don't. And I think I saw in your first podcast, you're talking about how it's not often done where there's a lead runner that comes really tight in on the ruck off the scrum half. Where a 9 looks to hit him. But the rugby league use it a lot. They're always options. They don't just stand there and not be an option. They always run those lines all the time because the scrum half might just hit them. And so on this occasion, the dummy half shows one side and then he comes back and Sam Burgess then hits that short line. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously the ruck area is different when it comes to Union and League, but we still see some good scores from just a small bit of deception one way, and then say just active. I mean, both sides of the ball, left and right, they're both pretty active at that point, and both fairly believable. And just the lateness of this angle is just not been seen until that moment, and a big strong runner like that, it's too late at that point. So yeah, it was a big fan of that one. As a scrum half, this angle shows it quite nicely, where the one defender is already stepping back in, so he's already been taken, and because the gap is so large, if you look at the tackle area, we've got the dummy half already going around the corner. He's then having to come back because he's exposed. It then forces both of them to bite into the same space. So just simple as it gets, but really effective body language.
This play here again is the key for this, and I often say is the ball player, and it's what we call the ball player really straightens up, and he runs into the gap between the defenders again to attract the inside and outside defender. So then he really straightens up here and pulls it back hard. Then this guy here then straightens up and he pulls back hard.
This is probably something that we talk about quite a bit in Union. I probably pick up quite a few of my videos. just how important body language is there. So he's focusing on the inside. He actually pumps inside. So the inside defenders, the outside defenders are already stepping across. They don't already think that the pass is going on the inside. They then have to react to a second threat, which is the short leg runner, and the third threat is already in space, which makes it incredibly difficult. And just having that extra line, that's probably what league do. I mean, there's lots of things handling wise they do incredibly well. This is something that I'm just so impressed by in league. There's always that next option. That first bit's impressive. Now there's another option which is run really well, and that's what Jack use quite a lot. So just see that from the other angle, just from the behind the post angle, just what I was talking about with the inside body language. So pumping inside, head inside. I mean, even foot there. That looks like a pass at that moment in time. It looks like it's coming. So he's nailed every bit of body language, and even behind. I mean, the pull-out option doesn't actually look that active right now. It doesn't really look like he's...
The fullbacks even checked himself.
Yeah, isn't until really kind of we play it through. You
can see where the edge runners really take away those first two defenders.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can't collapse in defense because that first runner really makes a direct run to the posts.
Yeah, and this is attempted relatively rarely, but we're seeing more and more of it. But we don't see that amount of energy coming onto the ball. I mean, it's coming from depth, that pace from 9. Same thing on the outside. So getting guys who are really active in their roles, rather than thinking that this is a pull-out pass. I mean, let's be fair, they probably know right now that the pass is going up the back, but they're so active in their roles that it... Okay, into next one. So playoff scrum.
If you look at the fullback is in that pot of 3 at the back there. Mm-hmm. His starting point, where we always talk about starting points, is crucial. You're the unseen player, so you're not accounted for, and you've got to start from somewhere that you don't even look like you're involved in this.
So just pick up on your point of the start man. He's currently inside the pod. We probably see that from blindside wings. Some of the better blindside wings just track play, wait for an opportunity, and then become a part of it. But although it becomes it's a double blocker play,
it's double blocker play.
It doesn't look like that immediately. The start point doesn't look exactly like it would be that. If you put this in a union context, I mean, that's what are those two guys doing? They're probably carrying into contact. So it's good just seeing the energy and even this split. I mean, the fact that they run a kind of like a slice type shape off there. I mean that's something that could be transferred into union and is a union play. But I think it's probably one we could do more effectively.
This is a perfect defensive shape. The key for this is for this defensive is the last 3 defenders, how they come up, they tread. And then they all jockey together, slightly sideways, still keeping their hips square. They've literally jockeyed back together in sequence. Mm-hmm. So they're still connected, but what they've done is, the key to communication is that they've come up to the 10, and then they've just moved slightly together sideways, but still staying square, and slightly sideways, but also jockeying backwards.
Actually, we see teams like Sale, so your old stomping ground, we see them chasing really, really hard off the line, get into that bite point. Exeter do it really well as well. Get way across gain line, then stop in their heels, and then they're just happy to let it happen in front of them at that point. And while they're conceding gain line, it's better than being scored against, and you've got the opportunity to catch them behind gain line quite a few times too. But they jockey pretty well. So just talk us through. So we've got 40 and 60 are two fairly, or 40, 50, 60, quite common terms in league. And we see some crossover in union. In fact, I use them in union as well. Just talk us through the terminology.
In rugby league, we always call get to the 40. So if you look at the field as from your left to right is from, you think of that's 100%. So if the 40%, where they're at the moment is what we call the 40%, and then the middle of the pitch is your 50. So therefore you've got a 60% of the field to play.
Cool. So so that 40, it's a position that you find yourself in pretty regularly, and you've got relatively set patterns. Then you run with that kind of space, knowing kind of the numbers that you have up on feet, and then we've seen some just continuation of themes, just the timing of the runner behind, that he's still blocked by the lead runner, and his slide is quite late getting across. And then the timing of the second man then to run his short line, which is very, very short. Actually, Leinster and Stuart Lancaster talks to this quite a lot, the importance of the tightness of that line.
But you watch where both the trail men are together at the same time. The two trail runners should be sat behind the first receiver, and that's their starting points. So, and that's sometimes is the secret to deception is where they start from. So normally those two trail runners will start directly behind the first receiver. So you'll see them as they unfold. So he hits that trail runner, the other trail runner. So there you got two.
Yeah. I love the way that it makes its way into action. I mean, again, linking to Union, you probably do know who your trail runners are, and yet in this example they emerge as the play goes on, and there's a few possibilities off that, isn't there? Off that shape, there's a few different passing options, and just the way the shape emerges, I can definitely see lots of crossover there with what could be achieved in Union.
But their lead runner was running so hard that it actually stopped three of their defenders to bite in. So this try occurred literally about 5 minutes after. So they attacked from the 40 left-hand side, attacking the 6 on the right. And then about a few minutes later, they did exactly the same, but to the opposite direction. In Rugby League, we actually have fixed players on each side. So you have a right winger, left winger in Rugby Union. And everybody else kind of just merges in the play. So centres can be on either side. In Rugby League, you actually fixed your right side second rower, your right side centre, and your right side wing. And then you got your left side second rower, left side centre, and left side wing. So then those three defenders are locked. They don't go anywhere else. They don't merge anywhere else unless there's a play from a set piece. But from general play, those 6 players are fixed on left and right edge. So therefore, everybody else in between moves. So those 3 are always going to be in action at some shape or form to create these options on either edge.
And then just the sharpness of that line again. You got a defender very definitely taken out, and then just the lateness of the pass, that it's taken right to the line. Pretty square, hips pretty square. That ball could be passed to either player in terms of body language, and indeed mechanics of the pass could feasibly be passed to either person. And then just there was an awareness of space pre-receipt, that that those wingers are in a real pressured situation, and he knows before he gets that ball, there's opportunity out there. So just real lovely, quick reaction of the pass.
Have you noticed any spin passes yet?
It's one of the things that stands out the most, because I'm skill coaching is one of my real passions, and catch pass, being able to spin the ball effectively is something I'm massively interested in. And yet I watch Rugby League, and it's so rare, but they're powerful, direct. I still haven't had a good rationale for it, Apollo. Come on, give us some clarity.
It's a quicker way of distributing, especially under pressure. And there's a lot more subtlety in it. If you see Owen Farrell and George Ford, they got beautiful little subtle passes, and they do a lot of rugby league passes, if you notice.
Yeah.
I always laugh when I watch them. I said, "Oh, that's a rugby league influence," and they throw these end over end passes. But you'll notice that when they're running straight, it's very hard to rock off your outside foot to throw a deep pass to try and spin it. If you watch end on a lot of these passes, the outside elbow gets quite high. So the reason why you get it quite high, so that we're able to deliver that pass quite deep across our bodies.
Yeah, it's an interesting difference between the games. I mean, there's a lot of crossover. I mean, look at key points there. You got fingers upright. His inside hand is further towards the ball. He's catching early with his inside hand. He's immediately into catch shape. 10 points of contact on the ball, fully wrapped around, and just even his eyes at the last moment. So he's focusing on ball initially, but then that last second before catching, his eyes then just track across. So once you're confident and aware, there's a elbow coming up, and is able to chuck across a pretty decent pass. I mean, it's a scoring pass, so it's got to be, those are always good ones, aren't they?
So just to educate a lot of the rugby union players, so one of the objectives at times, so one of the calls would probably be to get to the 50. To get to the 50 is to get to the posts. So what it does, it enables you to two attacking options. You either go 6 onto the right, left, or 5 to the right. It all depends on where they've got their defenders. So you'll find it that the number 6 here in rugby league is the fly half, and he's the ball player, and so he's normally about 2 or 3 plays ahead. Now you think about Sean Edwards when he was playing, he was about three plays ahead of everybody. He was already mapping out where he wanted to go, and he'll be saying, I want to go to the 50, but go to the 70 for 2, and then go to, on the third one, I want to get to the 50. So a lot of this is strategies are more about positional starting points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we see that that structural play. There's a lot of crossover there between the codes, but very different, I suppose, in the makeup of them, just the nature of the game. But this play itself is it's fairly similar. So it's switch play inside, short option, and then just gets caught maybe slightly. Maybe because the ball a little bit early. There's no real bite in it. The outside line, you could argue, is not massively believable there. So while it's held to this point, he's already sliding.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier then for the defence to get across, and then tries to skip through on that one. So if we play this through and into your next phase. And you see that mispass on the edge again, and I suppose the bit I'm interested here is that you're talking about getting to the 52 as a strategy, and this is why. Yeah. I mean, it's if we only ever analyse rugby phase by phase, then we'd have maybe slightly flawed conversations. So this phase we can analyse. We can say, well, we could have done this and could have done that, but in reality, the aim right now is to get to a set start point that enables them then to be able to attack, and through an offload and a little bit of commitment, they're there. And at this point, you're ready to go.
So by the time he gets to the 50, everybody was set. So if you look at the shape there, all it was just get to the 50 on this one, we're set. Mm-hmm. So there was no real attacking options to the right here. So everybody was set for the left-hand attack because they were short on numbers on that. And you find that these guys can pass up to, most rugby league ball players can throw up to about a 15 to 20 metre pass without spinning it. And they work on that a lot. So you can see that it's quite well-worked skill that they work on a lot.
Go into our next one.
If you notice, what you'll see is number 7 is the way he goes across, but then he bites back in. He steps off his right foot and he rocks off his inside foot to give that pass. Mm-hmm. That's key because he draws in everybody else. So everybody now, rather than carrying on drifting over, the key skill here is, and we always say that the more he straightens up, the more defenders have got to bite. So then he steps, and then he pushes out.
Yeah, that outside foot, we can see that in a few examples, just helps him to kind of block in outside leg forwards rather than inside leg. So it maybe makes the pass slightly harder, but it also buys a lot more of the guys in front and just squares you up a little bit. Actually, it prevents his drift. I mean, the dummy itself is quite exaggerated, and while it's, you can look at it and think, oh, that's not the best dummy in the world. Its effectiveness is determined by the fact that he's actually bought the defender. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you measure success here? Well, has it done his job? Well, yes, it has.
Yeah.
It's that defender is now out of shape and is already backtracking because of the quality of it. So it's done its job perfectly. So quite elaborate and really extended dummy, but yeah, worked wonderfully.
Yeah, and if you notice a lot of the tries, Geraint, is that there's a lot of tries scored where players are actually on top of the player that's passing, and there's a real big skill acquisition of passing the ball under pressure, and they do a lot of drills where they have defenders come up and start very close, and they just pass while being under pressure, and I think that's kind of a skill that is not often taught.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has more time on the ball when they're being coached. Whereas here, a lot of times in rugby league, we used to get 3-on-3 all the time, and see if you can just beat the defender just through a pass, through manipulation, numerical advantage. But a lot of the times, it is just with the pass.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge amounts of pressure on that, isn't there? So you picked in the fact it's a double lead, so you got two players coming short off the ball carrier, off the passer, and then he's got a trail option then at the back of it. Again, by Rugby Union, so we would definitely see crossover there. But again, body language, just they're so late.
Yeah,
that it just can't be ignored, and I mean, there's a bit of a shot on. He's just determined that he's gonna have a crack at it. Just gone for the shot, and then that's just sucked in all the other guys.
Interesting if you look at those two lead runners running into that same hole.
Mm-hmm.
It really draws that defender in.
Mm-hmm. So just breaks that connection. I mean, the second last defender right now, he's now disconnected from the outside guy, which means that the outside defenders, I mean, even the timing of that pass, I mean, that's a metre and a half. So it's a massive pressure to take and give in a couple of steps. And you're right, but spin pass, I mean, spin pass wouldn't be appropriate there. So being able to push pass effectively, catch and give, it's a pretty cool skill to have.
Well, what I wanted to show you is just the skill of scrum halves and so ball players. Now here he shows to kick. So what it does, it forces the outside winger to drop. There you can see how deception. He shows to kick, so he looks to show it on the inside, the guy who's cutting, and then after he shows it, he then shows to kick, which then forces the winger to drop. Then creates that more of time over the edge.
Yeah, it's quality. I mean, there's not too many examples of highly effective dummy kicks in Union. I think maybe partly because we don't see that many grubbers through anyway. So dummy in it, maybe don't see as much of it. But from this kind of play, I just love that the effect it's had on that winger to step back in. Yep. He's then going to get across. It's forced the other guys then to go passive. And then he's caught between two minds because they still haven't reconnected in reality. So I'm very pleased you picked up on that one. Just here from the other angle, probably see more clearly. So just even taking the ball into a single hand, even that looks like he's going to kick it. So just those recap a lot of the themes we've talked about so far. So got a split field attack. We got ball carriers taking the ball right to the line, high elbow from the passer. Given a bit of deception as to whether the ball's going short or in behind, and indeed gives it more force on the pass as well. And then we've got defenders currently jockeying, so they're on their heels, looking to slide across, and that consistent theme. We got wingers desperately trying to make decisions on the edge and being beaten by a mispass on the outside. I picked some clips to just recap on some of those themes and see where some of the crossover is between League and Union. Some very, very good ones and some that maybe we could learn a bit more from. So this is Gloucester against Wasps. We've got Lloyd Evans at 10. He's got Alex Craig and Lewis Ludlow then on his outside, and then Billy Twelvetree's in behind. So this is a decent example of just catching a defence unawares. Just really caught my eye, just because I mean your assumption is that it's either going to go very short which is what the defensive assumption is, always going to go behind. And we've seen a little bit more of this now, of this little slide across, and then Lewis with the gas that gets through, and he even passes when he breaks through as well, which is impressive.
That's a nice ball.
Just the lateness of it takes it right to the line. So lots of themes what we've seen before. I think adding some rugby league type concepts to this, you'd see a lot more adventure outside. So the guys, you'd see some link to this, so shape on shape rather than the shape itself. But the shape has actually done a cracking job, and a lovely break from Lewis Ludlow. And then example from Leinster against Lyon way back early in the season. So got Burn a 10, and he's got Low at the back. I was caught by just how influenced the defence are. So if you see the kind of where the defensive players are, but Tracy's taken a short line, they've actually not been influenced. If you'd put your rugby league head on, Apollo, what are you seeing?
I think what was good here is I like the outside guy on Low, the attacker outside of Low. He sees that the defenders have come up, but he takes that cut line. Mm-hmm. But what I always say is that a lot of the problems is where Low probably could have started a little bit further in as opposed to starting out there. He becomes an obvious choice of a trail man or second man play. You know, he can probably just, if he started here, he can probably run on more of an arcing line as opposed to an out line. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a difference between an outline and an arcing line. An arcing line comes and straightens up, whereas a lot, I think you got James Lowe's there. He's getting the ball. He's going nowhere but sideways.
It's a bit easier to defend than maybe they would have liked in that point. But I agree. Ringrose's reaction to cut back inside then is pretty cool. But this next one is off a set piece, and just seeing the same kind of themes. You got Henshaw, a first receiver. You got Ringrose then coming short with Byrne then at the back of it, and hits Lama then on the outside. I'm just interested by the defenders and how much they're influenced. I think this is the key moment. I think just the pass is just given early. I mean, this is ultra critical, but it's I think if he's going to make that even better, he'd be taking that right to the line, and then when you've got Ringrose then coming on his line, they've gone to the same player. So Leon 10 right now. There's two Leinster players have only influenced one Leon player. Yeah. That then allows the 12-13 winger then to connect on the outside. And even with Lama gives a lovely pass out to the outside. They've made gain line, but Leon have covered it. And they'd be pretty content with a 12-13-14 connection on the outside. So I think that just comes down to just from some rugby league examples, really take the ball off the line.
Yeah, if you go back to that one, you see their starting points. Now, I probably would have played that a little bit different, but use this blindside winger as your trail man. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just, look like you're actually drifting across. But then, and I think that lead runner does a good job. But I think because everybody could see that, who was it that's wrapping around?
So we've got Byrne coming on the back. And then he's across then to Lama. So just probably agree. If wingers there, probably a good option. And then or start your winging in to receive, and then push Byrne wider immediately, potentially. I always come back to when I say things like this that Leinster are actually pretty good at this. They're pretty good at rugby, and they do incredibly well. It's just looking at what we can pick up from league that might help our work and our union minds. And this one again, this one stood out. So got Billy Burns at 10, and then Dirksen has made a cracking tackle. And I was just looking at, well, how would you improve that? Kind of taking some of the league thinking into it is the crossover. So where the support, where the lead runner is.
He's kind of run a bit. He's a bit wide on this one now, and the trail man's probably just a little bit tight. Probably if he started from a deeper angle, see it's quite obvious where he's got to get to it, and that lead runner didn't really do his job.
Yeah, it's so wide. It effectively becomes a short ball rather than a lead, and I think it's intended to be a blocker. But Bolakoni, he's been caught through the shape. So Dirksen right now is actually gone through the gap. He should have been blocked. So it's small detail. And then just following up then with another clip against Clermont, actually similar kind of context. So the lead line on the outside hasn't influenced the inside defender. So the inside defender currently is thinking about interception or chasing through, and he's actually able to get through that gap as well. It's cracking footwork. I mean, they get out of that, but could so easily have been caught just by allowing that defender through. So we've got to, with that short line, we've got to properly get into that space and time the crossover so that the ball, when it goes behind, you got the protection of the guy in front. So what are you thinking there, Paulo?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, your analysis on that is perfect. It's that lead runner. It's just got to be. He's got to really sell it and really hit that line hard. But the trail man, again, I always say the trail man's got to start a little bit deeper. If you notice that where he starts, it's very shallow, but he's almost an obvious trail man. He's going to be an obvious person to get. He's going to get the ball because he's running that outline. So if he's going to start, he'd be best starting a little bit deeper, but probably started from the inside shoulder of that first receiver, and then coming on the arc.
So yeah, it's always tough to critique, but we're hoping for learning from it. So this one again from Clermont, I saw loads of those Rugby League clips, which I was massive fans of, and I thought, well, how many times does that happen in Union? And this was, I think, Clermont are the team that did this actually really well. So having a short runner off, so they get their kind of blocker play immediately. And I wonder again how much influence has it had on the defence. So we get go forwards because we've got big strong carriers under the ball. Just thinking how active is this? So nice bit of play, good bit of deception. They get some go forwards from it. It's just about the body language, isn't it? How active are we? How believable are we? And are we running a pace to really get into these defenders? I mean they swum off there. So soon as this should be a block, but it's not. He's swum off, and then he's actually making the tackle. Yeah, the small things make a big old difference. So another meter of depth, bit more pace, get to the outside shoulder and properly influence that defender, and that tackle doesn't get made. You end up with maybe a bit of a line break. This is final clip. This was one that I like this from start to finish. So got Shidi at 10. Yeah. And just the lateness of the ball. So you've got Bedlow at the back of it. So just the lateness of it. So everything we've been talking about is pretty much apparent, yeah. So you've got two short lines, got a really late line, holds it behind, stays, and then even Shidi of the high elbow coming to pass. Yeah. I mean, same as we've seen the Rugby League examples, but it's believable right now. We could be passing short or behind.
Oh, absolutely. He's had about 3 options just on that pass. I like the trail man where he started. He tucked in behind that first receiver, and like I said, that's the key. If a trail man, you've always got to start. Your starting point is the key. The deception is that you are a pair where the numbers are not accounted for, and so it's important to start somewhere where people can't number up on you.
And then, of course, on the outside, if you've got something like Rui in your outside channel, then there's a decent chance you're going to get a score. So, nice, lovely bit of play, and then ended up with a decent score on the outside.
The key for all of those plays and what is noticeable, and you'll probably start looking at it a bit more, and your audience will start looking at it a bit more, is that too often you'll see when Rugby Union and it happens everywhere now, even the All Blacks and England do it, is that they don't rest in position. They almost just carry on walking until they get into position. But the problem is that as they're walking, the ball's coming out, but they're walking on an outline. So their hips are actually going outside. So as they're walking, whereas we always say rest in position. Rather you work 120% to get into position, sprint to your position, rest there, and so to get ready for the next run. And so with rugby league, coaches will point that out in videos. Why weren't you in position? So if you run into position, the only way next is coming in. Whereas a lot of guys are always walking. You'll see in the video, guys are walking in position. So as they're walking, the ball's coming out. So automatically their line is already going outside, as opposed to having that direct run back in. So and one thing you've got to appreciate that Rugby Union doesn't have that 10 metre sort of to play. Whereas, you've got defenders coming in at 100 miles an hour, where we can actually, with Rugby League, you can actually have 20 metres between you and the defenders. So you've got to take that into consideration when you're looking to plan plays and try and have takeaways from Rugby League. You've got to understand that. Hold on, Rugby League is starting 20 metres back from the first receiver.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's they're vastly different games in lots of ways, but hopefully we picked up some of the consistencies and some of the things that can be drawn across. And I've definitely learned loads from the conversation, Apollo. It's been really, really useful for me in my own delivery, and hopefully it'll be useful to other coaches. I'm sure it will be in other fans, just to see some of the nuances behind the two games and how they can help each other. So thank you for your time. Hopefully everybody else enjoyed it too, and I will look forward to chatting again.